wanted to be sure you had a chance to watch this at your own speed if you needed to. Main thing you want to do again is make sure you write these things down for yourself and that you understand them. The hardest part about interval notation is understanding when to use parentheses, when to use brackets. Again, if you are graphing and your graph has an open circle, that's when you're going to use parentheses. If you are graphing and your graph has a closed circle, that's when you're going to use brackets. So again, on the other side, if this is less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, you're going to use brackets. Also, if this was less than or greater than, without the equal to, you're going to use it parentheses. And the reason why you use the U, again, is to make sure you put two parts together. That is whenever your graph has two sections. So whenever you have something like that combined with this, because you're going to have to give one part of your answer for this section of the graph and combine it with that section of the graph. That only works with OR, as we'll talk about later. Again, interval notation represents the portion of the graph that's being shaded. You can fast forward through to the parts you need if you need to get to the examples. That's why I put this on YouTube instead of Edpuzzle. In order to convert it, you again have to make sure you graph your answer. So if you haven't practiced graphing your answer, make sure you get practice on that first. Most of the people that I've seen that have missed it, it's because their initial graph is wrong, not because their interval notation is wrong. So again, it's not an expectation of 136, but in order to get through your homework, you might need to use this. But honestly, what I would do, I guess I'll explain when we get to the part that you'll probably fast forward to. So let's look at some examples real fast just to see what's going on. So if I'm looking at this question, if I were you and I got an answer, I would look at the answer that's most similar to what my answer looks like, because these are all the different types of answers you're going to see. You're going to see a less than versus greater than. You're going to see a less than equal to versus a greater than equal to. You're going to see a part that has the combined and. You're also going to see ORs. So if I were you, if anything, I would just use this video to try to kind of look at the problem that, or sorry, look at the example that looks exactly like my answer, at least mostly like my answer, and then just go from there. But either way, in order to graph this, remember that we want to put our 15 down, we want to open our circle, and it should be going to the right. And so once again, the question is, looking from left to right, what is being shaded? The shaded part starts here. The end is way out there, which represents infinity. And so as you're looking at this, sorry about the thing doing that. Let me focus this real quick if you don't mind. So don't look at the screen for a second. All right, now you can look at it. But the end is at infinity. So all you have to do is remember that 15 is not included. So you put a parentheses 15 because that's your starting point. And your ending point is at infinity. And because infinity is a number that doesn't exist, again, you'll always use parentheses for infinity. Make that note for yourself. Again, you will always use parentheses for infinity. It's always going to happen. Number 2, or letter B, we got the -2 here. This means the circle is closed. This means that it's going to go to the left. And so what we're looking for, again, in terms of graphing, where is the starting point? Well, the starting point is way back there at what we would call, because this is the negative side, negative infinity. The stopping point is right here at 2. And so your interval notation should say that we start way off to the left and that we stop as soon as we get to -2. So again, infinity is a number that does not exist, so we use that. Again, that's negative infinity because that's left. And then our stopping point again is at -2. I'm sorry, that's included. So we will use a bracket. Closed circle, included, equal to, include. But we do not use a parentheses on infinity because it really, you can't, it'll never happen. So just make that a practice of your own. If you're looking at C, again, we're looking from keeping numbers in order, -3 to 17. 3 is closed, 17 is open, and because X is in the middle, as we should have learned in our lesson, it's going to be in between those two. So if you're looking at your start point, it's here. If you're looking for your end point, it's here. So therefore, we're going to start at -3 included, and we're going to stop at 17 not included. Those are the main 3 that you'll see. Like I said, actually even this one here is one of the main ones you'll see that you have to do it for. But again, they're not so bad just because once you recognize what you're doing, that you're simply asking yourself on this graph, where am I starting? Where am I ending? So again, on here, we started at 15, we kept going, and you can visibly see that your graph starts at 15 and goes on forever. That's what this should say. It starts at 15, goes on forever. We can see here that this starts way off to the left on the negative side of forever and stops at 2, and that's what it should say. We can definitely see that our graph starts at -3, stops at 17. That's what this is telling me. So again, on your ORs, that's the one where it's usually tricky. There are 2 trick questions on this thing, or 2 tricky questions on this thing in case it gets crazy on your homework, but for the most part, the A through D is the main ones you're going to see on your most of your work. Here, again, open or closed circle going to the right, open circle. I'm sorry, closed circle going left, open circle going right. But again, in this case, because it's OR, we want everything, so therefore we are looking at both portions. So this is the one where I have to say this portion starts all the way out in negative infinity. And it stops, again, you can't say it stops over here because there's a hole, but the first portion stops at -3, and I'm including the -3. I then, because there's a second part, have to put a U there. The second part starts at 1 and ends at infinity. So again, the first part starts way off to the left and stops here. That's what this is telling me. You're putting this together, or union was what it stands for, but you're putting this together with a graph that starts at 1 and goes on forever. All right. In terms of E and F, those are just things where you get overlaps. And the key thing about your overlaps is you have to understand what and or mean. So whenever you get one that looks weird like that, it's an or that has the symbols going the same direction, or an and that has symbols going the same direction. You want to probably graph it this way because it's going to help you. So 3 goes this way, 7 goes this way. Because once I see that the signs are going the same direction, I know something funny is going on. So I need to make sure I pay attention to that. And what I'm looking at is or means I want everything. And so in that case, both of these graphs go way off to the left, which means it obviously starts in negative infinity. The question is, which is the trick part of the problem, is where does it stop? If I want everything that's possibly even shaded, it doesn't stop at 3 because there's more graph here that stops at 7, and that would be your stopping point. All right. So again, when it's or, you want everything included, and so you want everything that's been colored, and this just happens to stop here, and there's nothing else being graphed beyond 7. That's why 7 is your stopping point. Okay. In terms of the last one here, and I won't get into the word part of this part here, but if it's and going both directions or the same direction, then you're looking at 1. I'm sorry, let me do this the right way so I actually know. 1's going that way, 8's going that way. And you want the overlap. And so when you're looking at this overlap, what you're looking at is, again, both of them will definitely go on forever and keep going on to negative infinity. That's the starting point. But where does the overlap stop? And the overlap stops at 1. And so that's the part you have to use. If you get stuck on that in your work, again, just send me a picture of your answer. So if you got x is less than 1 and x is less than 8, send me that in your work, and then what I can do is I can tell you, or try to explain to you a little bit about what your answer is, or just give you the answer, because again, at this point, if you're having too much trouble with it, just let it go and just get the answers, or bring it up to me in class and I'll give you the answers for this stuff. But what it was just something to introduce it to you and give you a shot to kind of figure it out before you, or get a chance to figure it out before you actually need it. Outside of that, I hope this helped. If not, like I said, don't worry about it, because it isn't an expectation this year, but you do want to make sure next time you see it that you figure it out. Good luck. Have a good day.